we're going to call the public safety meeting together for March 16th. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd,
Present.
Alderwoman Davis, Alderwoman Howard,
Present.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderwoman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Bosley, Alderman Muhammad, Alderman Oldenburg,
Present.
Alderman Narayan,
Here.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Here.
Alderman Page,
Present.
Chairman Vaccaro.
Present.
8 present, you have quorum.
Okay, let's go for the approval of the minutes from the February 24th meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Bosley, Alderman Muhammad, Alderman Oldenburg,
Aye.
Alderman Narayan,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderman Page,
Aye.
Chairman Vaccaro.
Aye.
9 aye votes.
Okay, so just a real quick overview.
Chairman Vaccaro,
Yes.
we're also have minutes from Wednesday, March 2nd.
Oh, okay. Can we get, if I would have read what Terry wrote me, it's really nice because Terry writes it all out. But yeah, can we get the approval of the minutes from the March 2nd committee here?
I move for approval of March 2nd minutes from 2022.
Second.
Do we have
previous roll.
previous roll? No objection here, no objection to previous roll. We've approved those minutes also. So I want to start off with this just as a quick thank you to a few people. This started back with Mayor Ferguson putting together her committee. And from out of that, I have to really thank Alderman Jeffrey Boyd, my vice chair, who took all of this and went to extra meetings. We had Reverend Darryl Gray at all these extra meetings as we moved forward on this. We had, now I'm going to mess this up, but Pruitt, and why? Because everybody just calls him Pruitt, from the NAACP, who also worked in the mayor's office. I've been known to criticize the mayor a lot, but I can tell you that the mayor and her office were outstanding in this. And I can tell you that this committee that has been put together, and I don't want to leave Pam Walker out. She was on the original committee. And I really think that, she's going to be a great help. And we met all over the place. We met at Alderman Boyd's place there. He made it, welcome for us to meet. And this is a year-long, well thought out project of how we're going to do this. We have on this, and believe me, and I appreciate everyone that's applied, because these were very specific things. We have a health professional, we have a legal professional, someone that's been previously incarcerated, a civil liberties person, a corrections officer, law enforcement, Reverend Gray, and my three, let's see, it doesn't really say what they do, but concerned citizen and a youth member. So this is a group that I think is really going to get out there. And one of the questions was asked, are there rules? Well, I think you're going to make your rules. I think you're going to pick your own kind of leaders. And this, what came out of this, and I'll probably let Reverend Gray speak to it, but our Pam Walker, when we originally did this, we were only allowed to answer 3 questions or look into 3 issues at the jail at across the street, CJC. But what we came up with in that group, which included, Alderman Boyd and Pam Walker and Darryl Gray and others, came up with, and either Pam or Reverend Gray, if you could correct me, was it 36 or 63 different things that really needed to be addressed, but we couldn't address it at the time. So, Reverend Gray, what was the number on that? Do you remember?
There were 80 plus recommendations, 80 plus, about 84 recommendations. And out of that, we chose, Mr. Chair, 10 as priority or urgent recommendations. And this creation of this oversight board was number one.
So I really look forward to seeing what this group is going to do. It's a very eclectic group. I think the way it's set up, I think it's going to be good for the people that are housed there. And I think it will be also set up for the people that work there. And what our role, the Board of Aldermen's role, because you'll be working directly with the head of the Dan Isom, Public Safety Director, but also coming back to the Board of Aldermen, because some of these things that you're going to come up with are going to require ordinances, rules that may need to be put in place to enforce all your hard work. So having said all that, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to fill out the paperwork and let us look into your lives. So having said that, I think what I'll do is Alderman Boyd, Vice Chairman Boyd, I'm going to kind of turn to you. How do you feel we should do this? Just go down the straight list and ask one by one. How would you think we should proceed? Or Alderwoman Davis, somebody that's been around a while that can tell me things.
I think you should just have everyone one by one introduce themselves and allow the committee to ask questions.
Okay, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to start at the top of the list. Now there's 3 appointees that I appointed, and I will be honest with you, I know one of the 3. I had to ask help because again, it's a lot of the people I wouldn't have known. So Pam Walker, you kind of came in under health professional. I know you worked with the city in that capacity. Can you introduce yourself and let us know a little about you?
Sure, I'd be glad to. It's a real honor to be nominated by the mayor's office for this and have a potential to help. And it would be a real honor to serve if you so approve me on this commission. My background is in public health back quite a few years. I was state director of the Division of Communicable Disease and Environmental Health for quite a few years. And in that capacity, I worked with the state corrections department on communicable disease issues like TB, hepatitis. I helped them set up a continuum of care for first AIDS and then HIV patients when they were new into the correction systems. So, my experience with corrections is one of public health and communicable disease. I also was director of the state health emergency response and terrorism program. And in that capacity, I worked quite a bit with law enforcement, first responders, and gained some understanding of what they face too in their daily lives. I then came to the city and I was health director for almost 10 years under Mayor Slay, and worked with the corrections department on the PSA committee to write the contract and approve it for healthcare. I made sure that things got added to it that weren't there before, such as communicable disease, sanitation. We set up annual sanitation reviews because there were so many complaints about the workhouse at that time. I've been gone since 2015, so I'm not real sure what the health department is and is not still doing, but I'm sure they're on it. So my expertise is going to be health and public health, healthcare and public health. And I'm glad to look at that. On the task force, we did hear some things that were concerning. There was discrepancy between what we heard from the inmates that we were able to interview and what the contractors said they were doing, particularly around length of response time for actual health issues and not having established plans of care, just, things like that. We couldn't dig into it much further than that, other than to know that there were concerns being raised and the contractor said they were being dealt with, because you have to access confidential medical information, which we were not authorized to do. So one of our recommendations was that we look at, the city look at an outside contractor who could come in and actually delve into plans of care and see what is happening with, do people get a plan of care when they come into the correction system? If they have health issues, what does that look like? What's the timeliness look like? Just things like that, because you have to get into a person's personal records to be able to really determine that. So I think there's work to do in this area, and I hope I can help in that regard.
Thank you. I'll run down the list here. Vice Chairman Boyd, any questions for Pam Walker?
Good afternoon, Pam. Good to see you again.
Too.
I appreciate all the hard volunteer work you do on behalf of the city of St. Louis. I just have one question. I'll probably ask everybody the same thing. What is probably one thing that you would like to see happen as far as being a member of this commission and policy related? What would you like to see happen?
I would like the recommendations of the original task force to be implemented. I know it's going to take time. Some of them are going to require ordinances. But that was very good work done by that task force. It was fact-based and solutions were offered. It wasn't just a complaint list. And my focus will be to make sure that people in the system are treated humanely, that nutrition and sanitation are in place like they should be, and that they have adequate health care, because the state or the city is spending a large amount of money on the healthcare contract, and that needs to be effective.
Thank you. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
And again, thank you, Alderman Boyd or Vice Chairman Boyd, who helped put together the 80-something things that need to be done. Let me run down the list here. Would be Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nice to see you after all these years, Pam.
You too.
Yeah. So because I know how thorough your background is, I wanted to ask you, the previous task force that you were on, you only looked at the city jail, right? You didn't look at the workhouse.
Right. We were restricted to the Justice Center. A little bit of it overflowed to the workhouse, but mainly around overcrowding and those sort of conversations, looking at how they manage COVID. But
Right.
we were defined as just the Justice Center.
Okay. And just for clarity for the public as we move forward, I'm going to ask everybody that one same question. And mine is, do you currently have any contracts with the city of St. Louis?
No, I don't. Right now, I currently have one contract that's paying me with a nonprofit. Last year, I started doing mostly COVID work, and I did all of it for free. I I have a lot of coworkers, employees, farmer staff that are working all over the country. And I want to be accessible to them without delays of contract and who's going to pay who or what. Since then, I've stepped back from some of my other work, but I've not done corrections work. And I don't see any conflict between any work I've done since 2015 when I left the city.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you. And I can tell you that everyone was vetted by the mayor's office for any conflicts. And, but that's a good question. Alderwoman Howard.
Yes. I guess the only question I'll probably ask the same question is, you know, we have an environment that is, I would say, reciprocal. The health of the workers is important as well as the health of the inmates or the detainees. And I guess what my concern is, we can't address one without addressing the other. And as a member of that committee, are you able, are you willing to do both? And is that a direction that this committee is going to take, or that you would like to see it take?
Absolutely. We can't separate the two on the health area. It was painfully obvious with COVID. And one of the things the task force got implemented immediately was testing of the guards. And they did carry that out. And we looked very closely at their protocols for both the corrections officers and the detainees. And they actually did a pretty good job of putting that in place with their flu protocols, other things they had in place pretty quickly in a unknown environment. So yes, it's both vital.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And I appreciate the work you've done in the past for the city. I look forward to your leadership and contributions you have on this committee. Thank you so much.
Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Ms. Walker, for being at the table and coming through this whole process. I guess the only question that I'm asking is, because I keep hearing the Justice Center, so you are going to look at the workhouse also, if you oversight, you're doing both facilities?
I think probably the chairman needs to answer that based on how
they will be over all the facilities. They will have subpoena power, and it's very well put together. They will be over corrections, whether it's any of our facilities, if that helps.
Okay, and so will we get something to kind of have the guidelines on what their responsibilities are, what their powers are?
It's in the ordinance, but they will come up with a lot of themselves as to who they pick to kind of be their head person, I guess, in a sense. They'll kind of create their own meeting times. They report back to Dan Isom, and then ultimately back to the Public Safety Committee. And we will work with them directly to create ordinances. But a lot of what they do will be without any interference from us, any aldermen. We're not going to be saying, hey, my cousin gave me a call, or I got a friend there, or what I'm hoping to see come out of this. And if you look at the group, it's a mix of all kinds. As we go through, you'll see that. But they will make their own kind of rules, but they will follow the guidelines of the ordinance itself.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I don't know how to.
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
Thank you. And did you have more questions for?
No, that's all I have. Thank you, Ms. Walker.
Oh, all right. Okay, and I did skip, in case she's here, Alderwoman Kara Spencer, are you here? Okay, Alderman Brandon Bosley, did you join in with us yet? Alderman John Collins Muhammad, have you joined us? Alderman Tom Oldenburg, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually don't have any questions for Ms. Walker, so thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry. Let's see. Alderman Brett Narayan.
Thank you. I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Page.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No questions. I just would like to thank Ms. Walker for bringing her impressive background to the table for this service. Other than that, thank you.
Thank you. And I have no questions. Pam, certainly you can hang on through the whole meeting. It's not a problem. We're going to be voting on everyone one by one. And really, I'll ask either Alderwoman Davis or Vice Chairman Boyd, should we do these at the end one by one, or do you want to do them right now one by one?
I'm gonna yield to the vice chair to respond first.
I don't have a specific preference, but unless there's a issue with one or more people, we can at the end make one motion to approve the whole slate.
Okay. Okay.
Or do it one, however you want to. I'm flexible to either way.
Well, I mean, it's however you think. I mean, if we do them one by one, we can just, I mean, if we're going to do previous role, and I don't think there's going to be any issue with Pam Walker, and we could probably get through them pretty quick, and then they don't have to stay for the whole meeting. It's just, that was my thought, but I'm going to kind of go with what you think.
Well, you're the chairman.
I know I am. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just bounce down. Yes, Alderwoman Howard.
I think we ought to vote as a slate. I think these people have been thoroughly vetted. And I think that by belaboring it, I think we're just kind of making much ado about nothing. Trust most of these people are very competent and have been very thoroughly vetted by the mayor's office, by this committee. And I think that if we have exceptions, I think those committee members that may have exceptions need to speak up before we vote. Okay, thank you. That's
okay, and there are two different groups, one picked by me, the other one by the mayor. Okay, we're gonna jump down. I have to jump down the list, and maybe this is even more fair anyway. Out of my list are the ones that I picked for hopefully the Board of Aldermen Public Safety Committee would pick as Reverend Gray, and he has to be somewhere, so I'm gonna bring Reverend Gray on to kind of give us your background.
Thank you very much, Brother Chair. It's not that I have to be in a meeting. I'm in Columbia today at a state meeting with Missouri Faith Voices. So I appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Chair and committee, for allowing me to go now. I'll go as quickly as a Baptist minister can. I have over 40 years experience and expertise in human and civil rights advocacy and organizing. I've been an advocate for several years in the area of criminal justice reform. I currently serve as the national co-chair for the Prison Ministry Project for the Progressive National Baptist Convention. I pastor a local church in the 3rd Ward, the Greater Fairfax Missionary Baptist Church, and I live in the 18th Ward, where my alderman is the able Alderman Jesse Todd. I served as the chairperson of the Corrections Task Force under the former Mayor Lyda Crusen's administration. I was the one that was responsible for doing the research on the potential structure and creation of an oversight board. Did the research and looked at different structures and entities across the country that dealt with detention oversight, presented it to the task force. for discussion and recommendation, and it came out of the task force as probably the number one urgent recommendation from the task force. I think it's important to say, as Dr. Walker indicated, our task force had a very limited scope. But even in doing our review and our research, we understood that the detention facility had multiple issues. And that's why the 80 plus recommendations came out of as I said, a very limited scope. And it was interesting, Mr. Chairperson, that I know many of us got pushback about coming on the task force. There were people in the community, particularly activists, that contacted many of us, including me, and say, don't do it. It's a political creation. It's kicking the can down the road, and Mayor Cruzen is not serious about this. But those of us who accepted the position, including yourself and Alderman Boyd and Ms. Walker, Mr. Pruitt, and so many others, understood that we couldn't get caught up in what people thought was anybody's political agenda, that there was an urgent and very real need in the correction center that impacted, as Alderwoman Howard said, the safety and health of everyone in that center, be it the detainees, administrative staff, correctional staff, and our recommendations looked at all of the above and recognized and took all of that into account. And so I wanted to say that because I know that question was raised by Alderwoman Howard. Our commitment has got to be to all of the stakeholders, regardless of who they are, to include vendors as well. And as Alderwoman Davis asked the question, Alderwoman Boyd, I'm sorry, we have to follow the ordinance. The rules have been established through the ordinance. And so it's incumbent upon the board to follow the ordinance because it sets out the groundwork and the framework and our transparency. Who do we answer to? Well, we have to be accountable and we have to be transparent, first of all, to the public. We're supposed to be an independent oversight committee. And so first of all, to the public, to the city by way of the public safety director, the chair and the members of the public safety committee, and also the mayor's office. And I think in probably, if maybe not in that order, but obviously we are an independent oversight committee. Finally, I have no contracts with the city of St. Louis at all. I think that this is important. And I thank the Public Safety Committee through its chairperson of the way in which it worked with the mayor's office. And I thank the mayor's office for the way Mr. Pruitt and I were asked by Alderman Vaccaro to be part of the process in creating this and getting to this point. And then obviously I had to remove myself from the discussion to become a candidate for this position. Our job is to investigate, to review, and to recommend. And I look forward, if this committee so determines, to be part of this oversight board. And I'll answer any easy questions you might have.
Thank you. And everyone lives in the city that's on this.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Vice Chairman Boyd.
Sure. Thank you. Good to see you always, Reverend Gray.
It's a pleasure, sir.
Volunteering to participate. I know you've done a lot of hard work. It's hard to ask you a question because I know where your heart is and how you really feel and you're passionate. I think you're a very, fair person. But if you had to say one thing that you'd like to accomplish as a member of the commission, what would it be?
That's an excellent question. And I think, Alderman, and not trying to escape the issue, I agree with Dr. Walker. You were part of that process too. There was a reason, Alderman, that you and others came up with 80 recommendations because they were the most glaring. But I think I would start with the top 10. I think that would be important and work back. I think the oversight committee, you're doing that. I think that we have to look back primarily at the health and safety issues. I think when we look at, what do we need for correctional officers? What type of training do we need for them? What type of equipment do we need from them? Because a lot of them put their lives at risk not being properly trained and not having the proper equipment. I think that we need to make sure we set up a mechanism where detainees feel that whatever complaints that they have, whatever issues that they have, that there's a mechanism where they're not going to be thrown in the trash. They're going to go directly to this oversight committee to be dealt with. And then there's a responsible, effective and efficient way to communicate that back to the detainees. I think that those are the two things. I think Ms. Walker already talked about the health concerns, making sure that detainees are being seen at a reasonable time, and that is recorded and that it is followed up on. And then finally, and some of this, Alderman Boyd, and you're more involved in this than I am, a lot of this has to do with the fact that people are there for long periods of time. I wish there was something that this committee could do about that, but I'm not sure that it is. But I think that if we see that the frustration and all the other things are caused by that, I think this committee does have a responsibility to at least communicate that back to whoever the appropriate entities are. So probably those four things in that order.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Alderman.
I guess he's done. Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a lot of questions that I could possibly ask Reverend Gray because I know that he is very sincere about his participation with this specific committee. And I guess I have so much hope for this. It's one of the things that if we don't get a handle on where the problems are and address them appropriately, we will never have the ability to have anybody believe in anything in this city, in this process of government or anything else. And so the only question I have is in the current occupation of inmates at the city jail, and I know that you are still in close contact, do you believe we can really address some of the issues that need to be addressed properly with the building being in the condition that it's in, irregardless to the reports that we have about the primary problems are only on 2 floors? So what's your take on that?
That's an excellent question, Alderwoman. And there are going to be people who are going to be afraid to say that. If you look at the recommendations, I'm sure you have, one of the things that we struggled with is the condition of the building. You're talking about a building that was built, 25 years ago, but it wasn't built for the 21st century.
It wasn't built for that century at all.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so one of the things that we recommended is that we're going to have to the city is going to have to make a decision to look at the possibility of another site. We said that. We said it. We took heat. I took heat as a quote unquote activist. Reverend Gray, how can you say that we need to build another jail? And I took heat. And my response, Alderwoman, was because I'm a realist. We live in a real world. People are going to be detained. And if they're going to be detained, men, women, whomever, they need to be detained in a facility that is going to be conducive to safety, proper health, the ability for recreation, the ability for visitation. All of these things are real. And so would I love a world that didn't have any detention centers or jails? Yes, I would. But I don't live in that world right now. And so I do believe, Alderwoman, that the city, the Public Safety Committee is going to have to look at that recommendation and say, okay, do we put another 10, 20, $30 million in trying to rehab a building that we're going to have to put $30 million in 10 years from now? Or do we at least begin to look at the pre-planning of what would it take to have a facility somewhere else. So I'm trying to be, I am being as honest as I can about that. We had those in the recommendations. We took heed about it, but it was just the right recommendation, Alderwoman, and I'm hoping that someone will have the guts in city government to move forward on that recommendation as well.
Well, I appreciate you giving the answer that you gave, because it is something that needs to be looked at. And I'm just going to leave this with the committee and all that are listening. When it's time to move those inmates from the workhouse back to, they're not going to want to go. They've experienced having recreation opportunities, looking at different skill sets they might be interested in, being able to breathe. It's going to be difficult. And we've got to figure out something that's better. That was built to be a holding cell for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, but it turned into years that people are in there. So we've got to do something different. And you are correct. It's nothing that the city of St. Louis can do. It is all within the justice system. And that's a whole nother body that we have to deal with. I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no other questions or comments.
Thank you. And you know, a jail is meant to hold people for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months and have a turnover. If we're going to keep people for years, we need to build something more on the lines of a prison where people can go outside, that they can do the different things. Because I don't know how we speed the system up, but and I agree that the workhouse is the much better facility. It's got outside space and, you know, but anyway, I'm going to move on. Alderwoman Kara Spencer, have you joined us? Okay, I'm assuming she's not. Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
What about me?
Oh, you know what?
I was just
I'm sorry.
What you gonna do with Alderwoman Howard?
My pen rolled down the dang paper here. I need bigger writing. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Alderwoman Carol Howard.
Okay, Reverend Gray, I appreciate your passion and for what you do. And I don't want to get into a debate about this facility, that facility, what's better. But I think your passion and Ms. Walker's passion is about the individuals, the people.
Yes,
and that's what the business we need to be about. We need to be about taking care of people in the most humane manner, whether they are inmates or employees, guards. Everybody deserves to be treated humanely. The physical surroundings are a part of that. And, you know, whether one is better than the other, I think that when we look at the individual and see what happens when people are in certain environments, I think that that's going to guide your committee and your thinking and how you move forward. And
absolutely,
hopefully, you know, like you said, the city will take it seriously and move forward with what is in the best interest of the humans involved, not the buildings. The buildings are just structures. Those come and go. The humans are the important part here.
Thank you, Alderwoman.
Thank you for your passion.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm sorry about missing you. Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
Are you sure?
I think so. I'm never sure. Come on now, you know me.
Oh my goodness.
Mr. Gray, the only thing that I'm listening for and I'm hearing, the way the institutionalizing of prisoners has changed. And I think that as this committee is showing that we're looking at things in a different way than what the business as usual. But I also feel, and it's just a question I'm asking, because I keep hearing everybody throwing the water out throwing the baby out before the water. And so I hear the people keep saying that they should be locked up for 6 or 7 months. But if I'm not mistaken, per the United States Constitution, they're entitled to a speedy trial. And I don't think anybody's looking at that part. And so you are correct. We are looking at this in a holistic manner. And a lot of the people that we get, they have a lot of issues going on in their lives. And so that's why we have to look at it holistically. But nobody's looking at that they're not, to me, the unfairness is not them being locked up for all this period of time, is that they're not getting the trials. That's the unconstitutional piece that everybody's keep closing their eyes to. Yeah, the Justice Center was just for a temporary thing. But if you give them their constitutional right, we wouldn't even came to this part in the road, because they would have had their speedy trial and they would have been out or went further to other institutions. And so I hear people saying we need another jail or whatever, but I'm also looking at with the workhouse, all the work and dollars they put into that facility. And so now the pods that they have rehabbed are top of the line, and those people, and we've heard testimonies continuously, when it's time for them to go back to the Justice Center, people totally are not happy with it. So, I'm glad we have these committees. I'm glad you're here because you have been a part of this, instrumental in this for a while. But I think we need to look at the holistic piece. And I just hope that you all don't kick the can down the road, as people say, and look at, yeah, this inmate needs to make sure they're taken care of, but we need to make sure that they're treated per our Constitution. They have a speedy trial. So thank you for what you are doing. And I understand it's volunteering and you all are up against a lot. But I mean, sometimes when we volunteer, we ask for, we get stuff that we're not looking for. I put it that way. So you get an added piece to your whole scenario.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman Boyd, and I know your heart, and I know the work you do, not just for your ward, but I know the work you do for this city. You and I have worked closely together. I know your love for children. I know your love for public safety. And I do think it's important for people to be able to understand that there is a boundary that we have to be cautious of. You do have the circuit court, and you're absolutely right. There is a bottleneck, and those conversations have to take place with the judges. Those conversations have to take place with the circuit attorney. Those are those conversations, and you're absolutely right. As we have that conversation in a different environment, those detainees, and I think that Alderwoman Howard said it, these people mostly are detainees, 90+%. These are people who have not gone to trial yet, so they're still innocent. These are people who have not gone to trial, so they're still innocent citizens. And so we need to make sure that within the realm of the facilities that, as you said, that they are treated fairly, that they have everything they need, that while they're in there, some of them way too long, that we're not creating criminals, that we're not having a facility that because folk are in there so long under strenuous conditions, that we're creating an anger and frustration and depression and breaking up. That's the concern, I think, that the Oversight Board has to look at, that internally, what are we doing to keep people healthy, both physically and mentally? And the other stuff, people like yourself, who has been an advocate, Alderwoman Boyd and others, are going to have to continue to be the advocates to make sure that the justice system moves a lot more speedily. So I apologize for that long answer, but I applaud you and what you're doing. Thank you very much for your kind comments.
Anything else, Alderman Boyd?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And Alderman Brandlin Bosley, have you joined us? Alderman John Collins Muhammad, have you joined us? Okay, we're going to go right down to Alderman Tom Oldenburg. Questions, comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Reverend Gray. I did have one question for the Reverend. But first, a little backdrop. Reverend, first, thanks for your leadership on this. I also want to congratulate you on, being a fairly newcomer to St. Louis, how much the community actually has embraced you. That's a rarity in St. Louis, right? We tend to be on the same hamster wheel, and if folks haven't been born and raised here and are true St. Louisans, we tend to dismiss the perspectives they can bring. And I think it's important to note that you quickly have emerged a leader as a fairly newcomer St. Louis. I've lived here 24 years, and I sure as heck ain't a native. So congratulations to you for sure. But my question is along those lines, sir, because I do know you have a solid background of doing great community work and organizing specifically around these issues in criminal justice. So without getting too detailed, I would love for you to maybe share some outside perspectives, because I think St. Louis can benefit from a perspective that comes from a different place, or from analog cities, or from analog work that I know you've done. So is there anything right now specifically that you see from where maybe your work in other communities can benefit this process as you move forward?
I think that's excellent. I mean, I believe in transformative justice. I believe that in this realm, realizing the realities of why a lot of people are in jail, that we have an obligation and an opportunity right now under this administration, people like yourself and others, to say, okay, how can we address the whys? And it goes back to what Alderman Davis was saying, but I think that Alderperson, how do we address the whys? Why are we at this point with this particular facility, just keeping it narrow? And I think that once we begin to address the whys and get to the root cause, I believe that there is a willingness now, and I see it through, I'll use the word, some progressives. I know that some people kind of cringe when you say progressive, but a progressive mindset. I'm not talking about politically progressive.
Sure.
I'm talking about a progressive mindset. I think that now, Alderperson, like yourself and others, there is a willingness to kind of say, all right, we understand we need to look at other best practices in other places. The mayor is going around to other places and bringing back best practices. Other alder people are going to other places and bringing back best practices. And there is a window that has opened, not a door, but there is a window that is opened in city government. And part of that may be because I think people realize that in a few months, rather than having 28 alder people, you're going to have half that amount. And so now you're going to have to find a way to work together. We've been put in a position, Alderman, where we now have to work together. We can't work in 28 silos. And I think that people are opening themselves up to that, the new ideas, and recognizing that the old way of doing things, the traditional way of doing things, has not moved this city along. And I'm thankful that in the 7 years I've been here, that I have been embraced, not because I choose or try to be a leader, but because I choose and try to be a servant. And I think that that's what has brought me to this point. And finally, we cannot move forward for this city unless we look at collaborative government. If we look at the creation and sustaining of allies. And Dr. King had a phrase, Alderman. He said, we build alliances based upon necessity and not necessarily desirability, which simply means we're going to disagree on some things, but let's find the common goal. In this particular case, Alderman, the mayor and the Board of Aldermen, through Alderman Vaccaro and Alderman Boyd, and the Public Safety Committee, found a common goal, a common purpose. And out of this was created this oversight committee, which was difficult. I was in the room. But if it proves, Alderman, that other things can be worked on, and then let's get the low-hanging fruit. Let's show some wins. Let's show some collaboration, and then let's move forward. And I am so sorry that you asked that question, because you forced me to give that long answer.
Thank you, Reverend. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Alderman.
You bet, sir.
Reverend Gray spoken like a true minister.
Yes.
No easy. Everything's going to be
Right. Yeah.
a
sermon.
That sermon. That's what I was.
Right.
I'm sorry. So Alderman Brett Narayan.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Oh, that's probably even more wonderful, because you probably would have got a long answer. Alderwoman Shabine Clark Hubbard.
Short
No
answers
questions.
from now
Thank you.
Oh, my gosh.
Thank you, Alderwoman.
Alderman James Page.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Reverend Gray, having known your work in the community, having known your human rights advocacy, and having listened carefully to your previous answers to questions today, I have no further questions. I'd just like to thank you for your continued advocacy. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
Okay, and I have no questions. And Reverend Gray, I know you have another meeting to go to, but God bless you. And again, I appreciate everybody coming on and hanging out with us today.
All right.
And I don't see any issues with anybody on this, but we're going to go down the list. And everyone here, let me find where I put my papers. Everyone here does live in the city. The next one would on the list, on the mayor's list, would be Hilary Stuckey. She's in the 25th ward, and I do believe her mom is somebody's NSO. I don't know what ward her mom is the NSO of, but she has the legal background, and that was one of the harder positions they have to fill, especially someone with legal background that's willing to volunteer time, which, but anyway, Hilary, thank you so much. Kind of give, so that, maybe you might want to give the shorter version, but but anyway, please let us know about you, why you're interested in this, and your background, please.
Okay, I'll keep it short. My name is Hilary Stuckey again. I have been dealing with the city as far as working since like 2016. So some of you all's faces are familiar. I started off as Slate, working there. I also worked with Merce Goodwill with the youth program and summer programs as well. After that, I went to the prosecuting attorney's office for a few years. And throughout the whole time that I've been involved with the city, especially working with the young people, my young people have backgrounds of being incarcerated. At times, it may have been that they came to us afterwards. They could have gotten in trouble during incarceration. And so just being involved with the youth throughout this in the city, dealing with the recidivism over and over again, we had these conversations. This board just seemed very important for our city. So I do want to say thank you, Alderman Vaccaro, for being able to allow me to speak and be here to everyone, because it's very important that it's our city, and like we're here, we've been here, I've been here my whole life. And it's important because we deal with our own issues. And at the end of the day, we have to come together to help our community. And I think this board is amazing and will make a big difference. It's very important to me that dealing with my young people that were there back and forth, the treatment that was being done, they would write, they would correspond, being an advocate for them while they were there. We have to realize that people are innocent until proven guilty. They haven't gone to trial yet. And so while they're sitting there, I've noticed if they are staying there till 2 years until a trial, they lose the mental capacity. Then we're dealing with bigger issues, the mental health piece. Some of the young people, I've had one youth that was actually working for Pepsi, got in trouble by someone saying he was there. He sat there for 20 months and was acquitted So I think that we lose people with putting them there without actually knowing, and we have to work with the circuit attorney's office too for these trials, as was mentioned, because these people are losing time. And that's what builds up the crime rate as well. Now we have angry citizens. We have people that have been fathers or mothers that have jobs, and now this has come, and now they have to sit and wait. Some people can't bond out. They can't get that speedy recovery, as we talked about. So it's very heavy on my heart. I am still a young person too that is involved as far as seeing this happen. So we have so many big things even coming to the city of St. Louis and trying to build up our city to be like others. But how can we do this if we can't get a hold on ourselves as far as what we're doing? So this committee is amazing as far as trying to keep those policies and procedures going. I think that we would definitely make a big difference because we will be hands-on, being able to see how these facilities are working, responding to the COs, how they are treating the inmates. We have to maintain that professionalism. So one thing that I definitely made a statement on, even in my interview, was that we have to make sure that these correction officers are having the proper training. It's not just a job. These are people that you have to deal with. These are other people's family members as well. And so the conditions is very alarming. The article that came out, I think it was today, about how the inmate had been, not being responded to because of the bag and, those medical treatments, that is very alarming. And these are things that we have to take accountability for and hands-on and respond immediately. So I just want to say I'm again honored and thankful to be able to be presenting this way. I'm a paralegal currently and working at Spectrum in the paralegal field. So I'm honored in any way. So thank you.
Thank you, Hilary. I'm going to just jump ahead for 1 second because Alderwoman Howard said she has to depart. So I'll give her a quick minute and then circle back. So, or has that changed?
Here, I'm trying to put this off as long, but I want to say thank you for being willing to contribute your time and energies to this. I think hopefully this will move the city forward in the corrections department, and hopefully at some point maybe we'll have a model correction system that works with the courts and gets people through and in and out, and whatever happens, moves quickly rather than, belaboring and detaining people. And we know COVID had a big part in that. However, hopefully we're past that now and we can get back to doing business in a better way. I won't say business as usual, in a better way. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Howard. Vice Chairman Jeffrey Boyd, you're up.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Stuckey, you pretty much answered my question within your introduction. So I appreciate all the hard work and your insightfulness and your willingness to serve.
Thank you so much.
Alderwoman, mess this up. Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Ms. Stuckey, I want to say the same thing. You are, as you said, you are still very young, but you have an understanding of how we should operate on this earth. And so I appreciate you wanting to volunteer. I thank you. And I pray that you have the opportunity to also experience all the things that you have for your future. Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All righty.
Thank you. And I got a bigger sheet now so I could see better. Alderwoman Spencer, have you joined us? Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Ms. Stuckey, you pretty much confirmed what I had said earlier. And so it's not a piecemeal process in regards to somebody being locked up. It's a holistic approach. And so thank you for being open-minded and understanding. Even if people have done something that's wrong, we shouldn't condemn them until they've had a trial. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alderman Bosley, have you joined us? Alderman Muhammad, have you joined us? Alderman Oldenburg.
No questions, Ms. Stuckey. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
participating. Thank you.
Alderman Brett Narayan.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, Alderman Page.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No questions.
Thank you.
And I have no questions. Hilary, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're gonna move on down the list here. Next up, and everyone, she lives in the Barbara Baker lives in the 4th Ward. She's previously incarcerated, so she'll have a probably different view. And that's what I'm saying about this group. You're going to find people on both sides, but yet I think you're going to see a willingness of this group to get over any differences, whether you're far against the guards or the prisoners, or, you know, I think the willingness of this group is going to be just wonderful. I'm just excited. Barbara, you up there with us? I saw you a couple of times.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, give us a short version of your life and we'll have questions, I'm sure.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. And first, I'd like to say that I'm honored to be offered this opportunity. The God of my understanding never ceased to amaze me with the opportunities that he has put in front of me over the last 26 years. I work for a nonprofit organization called Center for Women in Transition. We're celebrating 25 years in the community. I've been with that organization for 22 years. Like he said, I'm a formerly incarcerated woman. I was a heroin addict, and I shoplifted to support my habit, and I rationalized my behavior by telling myself I wasn't hurting anybody, that it was insured. I wasn't hurting old people and stuff like that. I didn't come out of jail. I came out of prison the last time, October 3rd of 1995, and that was the day that I started counting my clean time, October 3rd of 1995. I got over 26 years clean and sober. If I count my jail time, we'll get into some 30-something years. But I've just counted for the time I've been in the community, because that's what was important to me, because every time I would come out in the community, I would get a job, I would get a house, I would get my children, and I would relapse. I take full responsibility for my behavior going in and out of prison then. Back then, that we don't have the information that we have now. We have a lot more information about addiction, and we should be doing something different. I agree with a lot of the things that I've heard so far from the people on the committee. And I just think that it's not just the city, the mayor's problem or public safety. I think it's time for all of us to come to the table. Not only just they're sitting in jail and stuff. We have to make sure that our guards realize that people are sent to jail as punishment, not to be punished. I think it's time for all the stakeholders to come to the table, because it's not just about them in jail. What happens when they get out of jail? That's our responsibility as well. Where do these people go from here? How do we work with them on the causation? Because people don't just commit crimes to commit crimes. I didn't wake up one day to say that I was going to become a heroin addict, have 2 children, and run in and out of jails and prison, and leave them for my family to raise. The Center for Women in Transition, I'm the advocate director and the peer support specialist. So I meet a lot of the women when they're in the city jail or the county jail. I was just down there at the workhouse last Monday. So, and that's the purpose of meeting with them, to see what their needs are. You know, we concerned about the recidivism. We're going to continue to have recidivism because we're not putting the things in place that people need. It's time to everybody come to the table, like I said before, and make sure that we're doing our part as a community. You know, everybody in jail is not bad people. It's just people who have made some bad choices. And I was one of those people. Do we need our jails? Absolutely, because we have some people that don't deserve to be out here with us. But we're wasting a lot of taxpayer dollars on people that we could be better helped in the community and save it and putting that money towards those kind of things instead of completely warehousing people and they don't get the things that they need, because that's what happened to me. During my incarceration, I took advantage of the educational opportunities that was offered to me. So, because I wanted to make a better life for me and my children, but I didn't have no strong support system. Each time I came out, I was sent back to the same place. So if you don't give people something different, they won't do anything different. And that's my story.
Well, and having messed up a few times early in life myself, and at the time you don't look at it as blessings, but when you look back, you know, a lot of those things that really were bad and horrible are blessings, and you've been truly blessed because now you're clean. That's cool, but you're sharing and helping people. I think that's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Alderman Vice Chairman Boyd, you're first up.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Did you know her? She's a fourth ward resident.
Baker. My goodness.
How you doing,
All
Mr.
I can say is I am so proud of Miss Barbara Baker. I met Barbara Baker in the late 90s when she was I think you were a volunteer at that time helping with, you know, the support group for Let's Start.
Yes.
And I was on the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, and we would issue these little small, you know, mini grants to different organizations that was trying to make sustainable change in the neighborhood. And it was really focused on real small organizations. And Barbara was the first person that actually helped me understand more about the criminal justice system and how it had a profound impact on children, especially when their moms go away to prison. And as long as I was on that committee, I always made sure that they get funding. And Mr. Milton will appreciate this, but when I was in my younger days, having been, you know, a victim of burglary and, you know, crime and all that, I used to have a mindset that people in prison should sleep on concrete beds. I mean, that's how extreme I was until, you know, I talked to people like Barbara and other people and about how, you know, if you don't treat people humanely while they're in jail, then how you expect them to act humanely when they get out of jail. And so, Barbara, it's because of your leadership that I made a significant paradigm shift in my thought process. So I really appreciate you for that. I am just too excited that they found you out there to encourage you to be on this board. I know you're going to bring a wealth of knowledge and sensitivity, and I'm just happy to be able to vote on you today. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Barbara Baker, I don't know what I'm supposed to say now after listening to you, except, oh my goodness, okay. Because you are the story. You are the story from the beginning to the end of how we should be thinking about providing services and supporting people and changing lives.
Right.
So I don't want you to be shy on this committee. And just listening to you, I know you won't be. Okay. We need your voice there. Now, the organization that you currently work for, I'm assuming they don't receive any funds from the city at this time.
I know we are supported by grants and donation and fundraising. As a matter of fact, we're getting ready to celebrate our 25th year with our big annual fundraiser. But since that has never been my point, can't really say where the grants come from because we have a development person that does all of that. And I'm at an age, if I don't need it up here, I don't try to put it up there.
Well, I can kind of confidently say, because I've been on the budget committee for a number of years for the city, and also out here among a lot of other places, I've never seen that name for that organization or anything. So I'm sure that the mayor's office has checked all that out and we're okay. But I just applaud you. I love your energy, and we're going to be able to get a lot of things accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to it. Learning
Right.
from you guys as well. You know, I'm open to new ideas and new skills and learning from the board, from the people on the board as well as on my own.
Okay. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry. Alderman Howard, are you still with us or have you left? I know she had to be somewhere. We still have a quorum and we got to keep that. Alderwoman Spencer, have you joined us? Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
Ms. Baker, I want to applaud you. What you said was powerful, but what made it so powerful because you admitted where you missed your steps and you understood what you had to do to rebuild yourself up. And it's not social. I'm not being particular, but I am, but it shows the power of women, how they can always pull themselves back up, girlfriend, and don't nothing get them down. So thank you very much for being the strong woman you are and being determined. And that's the only way we're going to get through this. So I'm happy that you'll be a part of this.
Okay, and I thank you for that, but I have to say I laid on my mother's heart for over 25 years, but I didn't get it. You know, it took me 5 penitentiary bits to get it. So that's why I say I had no plans of working with women coming out of jails or prison. This is the plan that God of my understanding had for my life.
And that's the magic word, God. So God took you. So sometimes we in a hurry, but people need to understand you got to go by his time schedule. And so that's what you did. You went by his time schedule and you had a praying mama. So you had 2 things in your favor. So congratulations.
Thank you.
No more questions.
Thank you. Alderman Bosley, have you joined us? Alderman John Mohammed, have you joined us? Alderman Oldenburg, you're up.
I don't have any questions. Thank you so much, Ms. Baker. Appreciate you participating in this, truly.
You're welcome.
Alderman Brett Narayan.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard.
No questions. Thank you.
And Alderman Page.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Baker, every word you said hit home to me. You're sharing your experiences and what you've come through, I think is going to make you just an absolutely wonderful member of this committee. And by the way, having had a praying mother, I know where you come from.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Barb, God bless you, Barb. I look forward to seeing all the input you have. We're going to go down the list here. Mike Milton, he's a civil liberties advocate, 24th Ward, citizen of the 24th Ward. So Mike, where are you at? You want to give us your short life story? I see you.
Yeah, for sure.
There we go.
Happy to. Thank you so much for the nomination to the mayor's office, but also the opportunity to talk about why I wanted to be a part of this board. And also it's a pleasure to be among great company. Me and Barbara Baker go way back. That's my comrade. So I'm excited that if this happens, that we'll be able to shake some things up. So yeah, my name is Mike Milton. I'm the executive director of an organization in St. Louis called Freedom Community Center. And I'm formerly the statewide policy and advocacy director for the Bail Project. And what we do at FCC is that we use restorative justice and transformative justice practices in order to intervene serious harm in our communities. And for us, that means interventions on a community level, but also on a state level. And so this is right on brand with our mission and our goal. Actually, literally my team goes to the jail almost every day and interview folks who are eligible for bail, so we can see if we can post bail for them, and literally just return back to the office coughing and choking because the mace filled the visiting booth. They're macing people right now in CJC, right now, right? And so what we see right now, the reason why it's so important for us as an organization is because this is really a symptom of the crisis that we have in our city around jails, around policing, around incarceration. I won't go too deep into that because a lot of people covered that, but when we think it's specifically around bail, these are people who are held up on average 386 days before they're actually convicted of a crime, right? And then what happened with the changes around bail, so much of that shifted to people being held on no bond allowed bond determinations, regardless of charge. So people are in jail without even the option of being released. And we're hearing the same things that I experienced when I was in CJC, which is about the water shutoffs, the culture of the COs, the constant macing, the chemical agents generally used as punishment, the list, the medical treatment, the list goes on and on and on. And as we engage people who are currently locked up in our facilities, we're also talking to their families, right? And so we're hearing the reports of that they haven't been able to go to a dentist and their mouth is infected, or the colostomy bag situation where people are not having their colostomy bags changed for months at a time and their whole body's becoming infected. And so it's really important for us to think about a process or think about what does it mean to have meaningful policy changes in our facilities that does not lean on the approval of the jail administration, but really on the people who are experiencing this violence and this harm. And what needs to happen in order for us to have those real meaningful policy changes so that our facilities are not just holding people for long periods of time, but also are treated humanely while they're incarcerated in CJC. And so I'll stop there, but really the goal that we have here, and my goal being on the board, is to continue to push the envelope around how do we address this issue, this crisis that we see in our city. It's not just the jails, it's not just the courts, but how do we move forward with a transformative vision that can actually support people and doesn't depend on arrest and incarceration models, which we know does not actually help us be safe. So yeah, I'll stop there. Thank you for the opportunity.
Vice Chairman Boyd, you're first on the list.
Sure, thank you. I almost want to be last. Mr. Milton and I have had some pretty good conversations. We haven't necessarily seen eye to eye on, some of this restorative justice initiatives, like closing the workhouse. He's probably the only one that I want to make sure is successful it being on this committee. And I say that because I've been around 19 years and I know, how it is when people get passionate about something and then they have an agenda. And I would just hope that Mr. Milton is coming into this with a very open mind, with a sincere focus to be helpful and educate, other members that's on this commission and be as understanding with what's going on with the correctional officers as well as what's going on with detainees, because this is a holistic issue right here. There's the humane treatment of detainees, and there's humane treatment of correctional workers who are severely underpaid. And so I'm hoping that this commission can take a holistic approach to that. From what I know, from working with Pam Walker and Reverend Gray, they're real sensitive to that. And I know Mike is real sensitive to, the detainees. And I only say that because that's what I hear from different people, my interaction with different people. So I just want to make sure that, everybody has a real open mind going into this and that we make the system better. And let's be clear that, the main focus and all the commission can do right now is really focus on the systemic problem within the justice system. I mean, the justice center, as well as the workhouse. all those other external factors, what the courts do and don't do and all that kind of stuff, there's not much that the commission will be able to do to solve those problems except make recommendations, that maybe they would consider some alternatives. So again, Mike, it's not to be disparaging with you at all. It's just, I know where your passion is, unlike anybody else that's appearing before us. And so, and I respect you highly in all the work that you have done, but I'm just being transparent and honest. There's a little bit of trepidation about your appointment, but I'm not going to stop it. I'm going to vote for you, but I wanted to say I'm going to vote for you by prefacing it with some of the trepidation. Okay. And we'll talk more after this to get to know each other more better. Okay.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, if I can respond to that. Yeah, I'm not necessarily, lost on the trepidation, nor am I trying to convince anyone on why I should be on the board. But it really comes down to what we see in real time as we deal with individuals who are cycling in and out of our prison systems or our jail systems. And so for me, it's not, the passion doesn't come with a political agenda. I was a person who was locked up in CJC. I saw people pass out from withdrawals. I saw people lack medical care. I was part of the tour that the mayor did the first 100 days of her administration. So I'm not just, this is not a passion. This is not a political agenda. This is me hearing the stories of families and people who are incarcerated inside of our jails and seeing how much in real time, how much they are violently harmed by these systems. And so I appreciate the acceptance of me and being on this board, Alderman Boyd. But my goal on this board is really to make sure that we have an accountable process, a transparent process to the public of what's happening within our jails, and then figuring out a way in which we can change those things in real time.
And to that point, transparency is extremely important. And some of my trepidation came from the lies that were told about what the conditions of the workhouse that just weren't untrue. And we're not going to go back and forth, but that is a fact because I got the photos to prove it. There was a lot of misinformation put out there, even after the tour that you took with the mayor in her first 100 days. So I will leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just going to go down the list here. See, Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Milton, I'm looking at your background as far as all that you have to bring to the table of discussion. And I also want to look at how you could probably even have an opportunity to see the other side of some things. And so the only question that I have for you is, based on the agenda that you have been working on yourself, will you be able to work within this committee? And when those occasions call for there to be how do I put this? When the occasion called for you to work on a project without taking it out to the public before it has been completed and or before everybody is at a point of consensus, will you be able to do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely respect the process. I think even my role on the board is figuring out how can we, as a board, bring these situations to the public when it's necessary and when it's time, but they have to go to the public. And so what we're seeing is that like this piecemeal between, news stories of what's happening, but in between those news stories, that harm is still happening to people who are detained. And so what does it look like? My question is for the board is, or what I hope to bring to the board is, what does a sustained accountability and transparency look like long term? And so, but I absolutely 100%, my goal on the board is not to disrupt. My goal on the board is to make sure that we're doing everything we can possible to treat people well. And that's everybody involved. I think incarceration harms all of us, including COs. And so really thinking about all of these things. Yeah.
Incarceration is required in some instances, absolutely required. Everyone should not be eligible for bail, and we know that factually. And it would be nice if most of these minor situations that people find themselves in, that they were never put in jail. Okay. But that's not the system that we have now. That, and the social justice part of it is really not our responsibility, nor can we change it. But we have to continue to send the messages to the entities that can change it.
Yes, ma'am.
But I also, and you said something that triggered one more question for me.
Yeah.
And that is, within all systems, there are going to be problems. I don't care who it is. And I'll give you a good example of what is going on with the president right now. All of our intentions are to help with the war situation, but he is being accused of so many things, and by just simply wanting to help. Okay. Our methods may not always be where they should be, and that's why we want this committee to work together collectively and use all of your knowledge and put it together to give us a better outcome. But we don't want any entity to get out ahead of anybody. So I appreciate all the work that you have done. We have never met, but I know all about you. Okay, I know you. I know, as I say, I know all your business. Okay? All right. They don't call me G Mama for no reason. They say that I'm out here. I'm out here. So
appreciate you on the wedding day.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to you being on this committee. And as most of us already know, if we have a situation that we have to deal with, then we'll do the appropriate thing, which is remove you. Okay. So, so what we want to do is we want to use your knowledge and your energy, because if someone is maced, it's a good reason usually why they're maced. Okay. And I know the last time that I was out at the workhouse when we did a tour, we had just walked out of the door, and here this young lady runs up on the phone and she wants to get the camera on herself. And she says, they mistreating the inmates in there, and my brother's in there, and he got feces all over the wall in his cell. Well, first of all, can't nobody get in there. If it's his feces, he put it there. And we had just walked past his cell, not even 5 minutes maybe. They had just walked past his cell. So we can't always fall into various reasons that people do different kinds of propaganda. We got to get to the source. And if we had not just walked past there and the cameras were out there, it would have been a whole nother story. Whole nother story. So I appreciate you, and we shall see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think what you'll see, the way this group was put together, it's something that I kind of always did in business. Like, if you got a bunch of yes people that are going to agree with everything, you got to have the yin and the yang. I just got one question. What is G Mama? What does the G stand for?
Is that to me? What did you say?
To all the women, she said they call me G Mama. I'm like,
godmother. I'm godmother to everybody.
Godmother. Okay, I just didn't know what G Mama was. I know that.
Oh my goodness.
People pick on me about car wash daddy. I just didn't know what G Mama.
The young folks out here know that I will come no matter what time, day or night, whatever, and I will deal with them. And if they're wrong, they're wrong. If they're right, I'm the one to fight for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just didn't know, and I was like, gee, I was trying to put it together.
Okay.
Alderwoman Howard, I believe, has left us. Alderwoman Spencer isn't here. Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
No questions.
Alderman Bosley hasn't joined us that I know of. Alderman John Muhammad hasn't joined us. Alderman Alderman Oldenburg.
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Ryan.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderman Page.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No questions.
Okay, And I should have been asking this every time, but is there anybody off the committee? Because I saw Alderwoman Evans pop in there. Did you have a question? And anybody off the committee, if you have someone, jump in because I don't necessarily see everybody. So Alderwoman Evans, what do you got?
I don't have a question. I have just been listening in, and this has been a learning experience for me. And I just appreciate all of the speakers, everyone that has participated, and those that still have yet to participate. And okay, G Mama, I got you.
So should I, because I'm going down the list, should it be Alderwoman G Mama? I have no questions. We're gonna go down the list here. Tom Lawson, he's law enforcement alderman, and he's in the 6th ward. I'll just let him speak by himself. But he's our law enforcement, and you'll see that we've hit a lot of what yin and yang or whatever you want to call it, to try to get it to just to be a group of, some of the people that, I'm not, you'll learn from people, you learn from your enemies, and maybe you become friends and see different sides of life. So anyway, I'm sorry, Tom Lawson. You had to put your, there you go, Tom.
Okay. Yeah, I had to find that unmute button. But, good afternoon, everybody. And for some people around the world, it's good morning. I want to start off by saying that I am not law enforcement. I'm not sure how that got disseminated in that way. I'm more of an academic perspective when it comes to criminal justice. I had moved into the city in 2000. And so I'm hoping eventually one day I'll be considered a native. And when I moved into my neighborhood, it was a wonderful neighborhood, part of Operation Brightside, block captain, things like that. And then I had moved into a new career, which was in the teaching. And so previously I had worked for McDonnell Douglas and Boeing in their legal department, but I found that just wasn't rewarding. I think one of the things that's really cool about this group is the one commonality, personal trait that we all have. And that is we want to do something better, that in our life, we feel the need to make something better, whether it's a small change, a large change, but we are a select group of people that are driven by improving things, and we want to do that. And so that's why I think this is a great opportunity, is we have so many great people here who are talking about their history, their experiences, and things like that. So as far as a little bit about my background, I went into teaching secondary high school. I taught in the Ferguson Florissant School District. And when the Michael Brown situation came about in the Ferguson riots, the Department of Justice stepped in and created a oversight board for the Ferguson police. It was the Ferguson Civilian Oversight Board. And so being a teacher and being that the Ferguson community was part of my high school, I was asked to be a part of that, the Ferguson Civilian Review Board. So I was there at the very beginning, and we created the policies, the procedures, the bylaws. And I was appointed for 3 years, but after a year and a half, what I had started noticing is that there wasn't complaints being filed against the police department. Now, we know that every neighborhood and every municipality, there's always people who are complaining about something, and they're going to file a complaint. So through following up on this kind of situation, I noticed that the Ferguson Police Department had changed their policy as far as what are determined to be complaints, and that they had set up a system to bypass the oversight board by actually saying that it's not a complaint, it was a discussion. And so they would have contact with these people and try to divert it from being a complaint to a discussion and resolution. And so out of that, talking with the Department of Justice, and it just seemed like nobody was wanting to do anything about it, I resigned from that because I just couldn't see being part of something that had no integrity. And from the things that I read and the things that I've heard, it just sounds like this is really a great opportunity to really make a change, especially for our community, our city. And so I have a master's in criminology and criminal justice. In my master's, my main focus was on criminology, which is the study of criminal behavior. The second primary focus was on corrections. I suddenly had this fascination with corrections, architecture, building design, and then corrections as a total institution in which people were put in and their whole life was guided by policies and procedures. And so I have some pretty good background as far as corrections goes. I've taught courses in corrections. I visit different correction facilities. And so I have a little bit of knowledge of that. Some of you guys have some expert knowledge, which is just going to be invaluable. So that's going to be great working with you and learning that as well. So, but other than that, there's been many things that have been said, and I think it's important that we look at the internal structures, the external structures, the connections. Some people who are coming into this facility have not been determined to be guilty at all of anything yet, and they need to have a safe environment. Our correction officers need to have a safe environment. We need to keep that connection between those who are inside the facility and outside contacts, keeping family connections, job connections, if that's a possibility, and things like that. And there's just, as someone had mentioned, there was like 86 potential things to take a look at. So there's a lot to look at. And I think it is important that we look at change. As the old saying goes, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expect different outcomes, that's a definition of insanity. Well, we need to stop that. And I think this would be a great opportunity to bring us into a new direction, and one in which many other cities could come and see what we're doing and emulate that in their city. So this is a great opportunity, and I hope I'm a part of this.
Let me run down the list. Vice Chairman Boyd.
Well, Mr. Lawson, you covered so much. I have nothing to ask you. Thank you for willing to volunteer. You sound like you have quite an impressive resume.
Well, thank you. And I just want to thank all of you, aldermen and women. The time that you devote to our city, the time that you devote to the people in our city. I just want you to know I truly appreciate that as well.
Alderwoman G. Mom, and I'm only kidding. Somebody will probably take that out of text. Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lawson, I ditto the previous statement. You're very thorough in a short period of time of giving us a lot of good information. I think you will be an asset to this committee. Did you say you live in the 6th ward?
Yes, he's 6th ward.
Yeah.
My eyes jumped down one because I should have had the correction officer before him, but yes, he's 6th ward.
Okay. And so living in, I'm also connecting people to the different wards that they live in based on crime stats and all of that. And so you all bring different perspectives of the different levels of crime and types of crime based on where you live. So that's interesting as well. But I don't have a question. Thank you so much, sir. And I think you'll be a great asset.
Thank you.
Alderman Howard's gone. Spencer's not here. Alderman Pam Boyd.
Mr. Lawson, I have no questions. Thank you for your presentation. It was very informative.
Thank
you. Alderman Oldenburg.
Mr. Chairman, I have no questions for Mr. Lawson other than he's got a great name. So thank
Alderman.
you.
Thank you.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderman Page.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No questions. Mr. Lawson, I'd just like to personally thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Now, and my apologies for jumping over that. The last of the mayor's appointments is a corrections officer, James Dahm Jr., and I'm sure I screwed that up.
It's Dahm.
Dahm. Okay. And I knew I probably screwed that up. But anyway, God bless you. If you can tell us, and we will run down the list.
Sure.
And then after this, we're going to vote on the mayor's appointments, and then we'll do the other one.
All right. I was born and raised in Belleville, Illinois, so across the river. I went to the University of Missouri St. Louis, got my bachelor's degree in criminology, criminal justice. Wound up applying for city corrections back in 2011. Was hired in October, went through the academy. I worked as uniform staff at CJC for a little over 8 years. Probably the first 3.5 frontline. Thereafter, I wound up working in classification. So I did intake interviews with incoming detainees. We kind of tried to figure out, substance abuse issues, if they needed to be put on detox, mental health issues, if they needed to be seen by our mental health staff, any medical issues that needed to be referred to Horizon, our contractor there. And then we determined housing based on charges and specific needs. So in that realm, I got to know the detainees on a more one-on-one basis and realize just how problematic a lot of things in the city and the country are for people that were just flat out let down. From there, I did that for about 5 years and then applied for a caseworker position at the jail. Did that for about a year, starting in January of 2020. So I only had about 2 months of normal caseworker duties before COVID kind of threw everything up in the air, and tried to fight the good fight there, but it got to be a little too much. So in March of last year, I tendered my resignation, but I feel like I have the benefit of, in my time as uniform staff at CJC, there were probably 3 posts in that building that I didn't work. So unless, I know things have changed in the last year, but as far as a day-to-day operations standpoint, I have a pretty good working understanding of how things go. I actually became aware of this position at a previous public safety committee meeting that I watched, where there were discussions about the gentleman who was detained for domestic abuse and erroneously released. And there were questions about the intake process that I kind of knew off the top of my head. And I thought, well, that might not be a bad bit of information to be able to share. I agree wholeheartedly with Reverend Gray and Alderwoman Boyd that a lot of the problems that we have seen there are time related. There were people that had been detained awaiting trial for nearly as long as I'd been there. And it's not common, but there and higher profile cases tended to be awaiting trial longer for various reasons, but that wears people down. Like when you have people that are there 5, 6, 7 years awaiting trial, it's just naturally going to change your mindset. And honestly, even if you're acquitted, ruin your life. You can't get that time back. And that's really, really hard on people. And I agree with Alderman Boyd that the correctional officers are underpaid. And also a lot of the other problems I feel are due to poor staffing. People with the colostomy bag issues. I had an inmate who was on my caseload as a caseworker who needed catheter changes daily. And if they weren't properly staffed, they didn't have an officer to escort him down to medical to get his catheter changed. And this was a fairly regular occurrence. So it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world to fix. Finding qualified applicants for the job, keeping them is problematic, always has been, probably always will be. But there are things that when staffing requirements haven't been met will fall by the wayside every day. And it's unfortunate, and it makes it kind of exciting when you are properly staffed because you can actually get a lot of things done. But I ran a little long there, so I appreciate your guys' time and consideration. And if you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer.
Thank you. And I appreciate your time. Vice Chairman Boyd.
Yes, sir. Well, they tell me you Dahm if you do and you Dahm if you don't, right?
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate the fact that we do have somebody that has a wealth of knowledge and experience inside of corrections. I think that would be very helpful for the committee. You seem to, be well versed, almost like say you only had about 3 areas that you didn't supervise or work in. So I think that's going to be very helpful. I have no questions for you. Thank you for your willingness to serve and for paying attention to our hearings and learning more. So thank you again.
Yes, sir.
Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dahm, I am very impressed with your knowledge
Thank you,
and the fact that you feel you feel a commitment to give your time to help improve that situation there. So as we look to the future, and we have all these great candidates at this moment for this particular committee, there's nothing else I want to say to you other than, will you come back maybe eventually once we get this committee done?
It might be a tall order, but nothing's ruled out.
Just think about it. Maybe we can figure some things out, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You definitely had the right mindset for the job. And we do appreciate not only the work, the number of years you work for the city, but we appreciate you being willing to serve on this committee. Thank you.
Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
I think he has spoke very eloquently, and he has told us all where he's coming from. So I'm with Alderwoman Davis. I think you have the experience, and so you ready for a comeback.
Thank you, ma'am.
Alderman Oldenburg.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Alderman Gretna Ryan.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Page.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Dahm, thank you so much for bringing your tremendous experience and your willingness to serve to the table. We sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So what we're going to do at this point, we'll do nominations, but I do want to check, is any other alderperson not on the board have any question of any of the folks that we're going to nominate? And from here, this is going to come out to the full board on the 25th, where the full board will also have the chance to vote on this. But is anyone that's alderman that's off this committee? Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, it looks like you have one other applicant appointment. Mr. Mensah is waiting, maybe?
He's a different slate.
So I got it.
On
okay.
my slate. This is the mayor's slate.
Got it. Okay. I just want to make sure you covered it right. Thanks so much.
No. I still have 2 more to go. Okay. This is the mayor's slate. And so since they're separate, what we would do is vote on the mayor's slate, and then we'll do the 2 left on my slate, and then we're done. So unless someone, since they're both different in the ordinance, I guess we should do them different. Or do you want to do them all as one? Vice Chairman Boyd?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the committee accepts the nominations by the mayor to the Corrections Oversight Board.
Second.
Is there a call
previous
for previous role?
Previous role.
Hearing those objection to previous role, everyone on the mayor's slate it will be passed out to the full board with a due pass recommendation. And thank you guys. And now we'll move on to the last 2 that are, and I don't know why it was only on the chairman to have to pick these, but it was part of the whatever. When I have to ask Alderman Boyd why he set that up that way, because he's the guy who drafted this thing.
Mr. Chairman, you could have always opened it up to the rest of the committee members. You didn't have to take it all on yourself. We're here to support each other.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, I did not know these, so I kind of relied on just people to say this is. So anyway, and I'm gonna mess this up, but Mensah, Janis Mensah,
yes, hi.
9th Ward, member. And so on the automatic members, let's see, it doesn't really say, oh, okay, I see. You're part of the youth member. Okay.
Yes.
Each category here had to fill some part of this, and so you're the youth representative. Please let us know where we're at and what's going on and how you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. As you said before, my name is Janis Mensah. I use they, them pronouns. I came to St. Louis about 6 years ago in 2016 for college. I went to WashU. During my time there, I interned at Art City Defenders, which, if you're not familiar, is a pro bono law firm that works with people who are in St. Louis who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. I worked under the co-founder, Michael John Voss. Michael John Voss, specifically on prosecutorial discretion and police misconduct. Part of my job there was organizing IRRs or complaints from people within the workhouse, which was kind of the first look I got inside of St. Louis correction facilities. I also worked as a youth organizer with Organization for Black Struggle. I've had some other volunteer positions with nonprofits like Criminal Justice Ministries. Following that, I worked for about 6 months. I had the pleasure of working with Miss Barbara Baker as a case manager for women and trans people who had survived prison. And for the past 2 years, I have been working with Metropolitan Congregations United, which is a faith-based organizing nonprofit. And specifically with them, I work on a participatory or community defense hub, working specifically with youth who are incarcerated or who are facing charges, kind of helping their families understand the process, helping them advocate for themselves and for their youth. And that kind of brings us to today. Additionally, I wanted to say that two of my main concerns with our facilities and things that I would like to address on the board would be the health aspect, which has already been mentioned, but that was something that really stood out with the complaints I read about the workhouse, was how people with different ailments were kind of being neglected and how their bodies sometimes were rotting because of the conditions of that facility. And then additionally, some of the responses, I think systemically inside and outside the facilities, responses to unrest or dissatisfaction, specifically with using chemical agents like mace, pepper spray, CS gas, looking for more productive and humane ways to address unrest. As someone who has lived in several different states and cities across the United States, someone who's never been convicted or charged of a crime, I have been exposed to mace, pepper spray, and CS gas several times. And I have found that compared to other cities and states, St. Louis's use of those chemical agents is particularly liberal and something that I would love to see change in the future. And I'll open it up for any questions or return it to the chair.
Alderman Boyd.
I have no questions. Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a question. I do have a comment. Well, maybe it is a question. You stated that you had major concerns about the health conditions at the workhouse. But did you mean the city jail?
No, I meant the workhouse. When I worked at Art City Defenders, this was several years ago. So these were people who were then detained at the workhouse.
Okay. But you are aware that they have a full medical system there. I think it's like 5 people, doctors, nurses, therapists, social workers. There's a whole wing of it. And they
Yes.
provide, oh, okay. But they weren't, what you're saying is you were still concerned because people weren't getting the care they should get.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, okay. I thank you so much, and I'm excited about all the experience you've had so young. Thank you. I yield back.
Yeah,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to leave for another meeting, but you got previous role, and I'm okay.
My previous role with the last two. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
Where could I ask where do you reside at?
He is 9th Ward.
Okay. All right. I was just trying to figure out where you resided at. So when you first came in, you lived over in that area?
In which area?
In the 9th Ward, you lived over there? You've always lived in that area. That's what I'm trying to
No, I used to live on campus at WashU and then in the Central West End, and then I moved here.
Okay, so you've never been north?
No, I haven't. Never lived there.
Okay, all right. That's all the questions I have. Thank you. Thanks for volunteering to be a part of this.
Of course.
Alderman Oldenburg.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Bretton Ryan.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderman Page.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No questions. Thank you.
And I have none. So thank you. And we're going to move on to our last candidate. Where are you at? And I'm going to mess up the first name. Last name Walls.
First name is Ornetha.
Ornetha. Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to see that. Ornetha, you want to go ahead and you want to go ahead and give us a little bit of a background there? And trying to see your picture, but I don't see it.
Oh, let's see if I can fix that.
Okay.
Can you see it now?
No, that's of course maybe other people can see. I don't see it, but you can go ahead. I think even without the picture, I think we'd be all right.
Okay, I feel a bit intimidated because all of these people with all these resumes, but I am just a concerned citizen who's looking for something positive to. I'm looking for something positive to contribute. And can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you fine. I just don't see you, but that's okay. You can go ahead. We can, I think we'll be all right with hearing. Are you still there?
It looks like she's gone on mute.
Oh. Ms. Walker, yeah, just unmute yourself. Just go ahead.
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. We can hear you.
I'm just an ordinary retired citizen who I feel the need to be able to do something constructive to help the people. I'm a resident of Brandon Bosley's ward, and I see things as I go in and out of the city, and I just feel that this is an opportunity for me to give back. I've never been.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, point of order, please.
Go ahead and state your point of order. I think her camera doesn't work.
Okay, well, that's kind of unfortunate because during these public hearings, we need to be able to see who's speaking. I'm not trying to be the mean guy, but I don't know Miss Lewis Walls. I have no idea what she looks like. I don't know who's speaking on her behalf. I'm not saying someone is, but that's very unfortunate. I'm just wondering if there's a way that Ms. Walls can get to a different device where we can actually see her face.
I don't have a computer. I'm not computer literate like that. I know how to Zoom on my phone. So I am really sorry. If I had known, I could have.
Well, if you're on your phone, Miss Walls, you can, if you're zooming now, because we're all on Zoom, you just need to turn your camera on.
Okay, you want to tell me how to do that? Let me see, because like I said, I'm not computer literate. What do I need?
Do that?
Do you see something say start video at the bottom of your screen on your phone? I'm on my phone too. And it'll say start video. Hit that.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
There we go.
There you go. See, I told you, I'm a 75-year-old lady. We didn't have these things when I was growing up.
Okay, but Miss Walls, we can only see the top of your head for some reason. We can't see your face. There we go.
There you go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. I just didn't want anybody to give us a hard time because that's our rule.
I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm just an ordinary citizen who feels that I may have something constructive to add, you know, and I really look forward to working with all these people since I've heard so much. You know, I'm still not too old to learn. My mother always told me that you never get too old to learn. So hopefully I can, you know, be a part of this committee and maybe have something to contribute as well as learn something.
We'll go down the list. And I'm glad you turned your camera on. You look very nice. And,
oh, thank you.
You know, 77. I'm not 70 something, but I am 67. So I'm getting.
Oh, no, I got children almost that old.
Anyway, Vice Chairman Boyd, you're first up.
Wow. Well, first of all, a comment, Ms. Walls. Thank you for someone who's as young as you are, wanting to participate and give up your time. I think you probably bring a wealth of knowledge just based on how many years you've been on this earth. That is very impressive that you want to serve. So thank you first and foremost for that. So I might have missed it. What do you do in your spare time? Or do you work? I'm sorry.
I'm a retired Metro bus driver.
Okay.
And I volunteer with Friends of African American Family Children and Family Services. It's headed by a retired social worker, and I also volunteer at the Women's Safe House.
Okay, well, you sound very busy. You sure you know what you're getting into? We expect you guys to do a lot of hard work.
That's how I think hard work keeps me going.
All right, then. I have no further questions. Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Davis. Oh, that's right. She had to step out. Alderwoman Howard's not here. Alderman Spencer had to step out. Alderwoman Boyd.
Okay, Miss Lewis, first and foremost, don't say that you don't feel like you are important or whatever. I think you are very important because you are grassroots. And so that's what makes you important more to the utmost, because you know what it is to be on the grassroots trying to build things up. I started out as a little lady starting a block unit on a block. And that was, I ain't gonna even say how long ago, because then I'll tell my age. But that was a long time ago. And so I kept fighting. And so that's what I see in you, Miss Lewis. You're a fighter and you want to find out what's going on so you could be a part of the process. So thank you so much for stepping up. You have you're in a ward where you have an older person that's very active, that's involved, that wants to make a difference. And so I think you will be an asset to this committee. So thank you so much. I have no questions because you have pretty much answered those questions. And don't think that you're not important. You are very instrumental in this committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, let's see. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Brett Narayan.
No questions. Just want to thank everyone for coming out and sharing their stories with us today. Thanks.
Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderman Page.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick comment. Ms. Lewis Walls, I sincerely appreciate your willing to step up as a grassroots volunteer. You made me think back a lot of years. My very first grassroots action was with a clipboard registering voters in Old North over by Crown Candy at the Saturday Farmers Market. So I applaud all grassroots volunteers who get involved and get engaged. Thank you so much for your willingness to serve. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We can do it however you want. We can do it as a slate. We can do it as individuals, but now it would be the chairman's slate.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the chairman's slate of nominees for the Correctional Oversight Board be adopted.
Second.
And is there a
Previous
call?
role.
Hearing no objection to previous role, that will pass out. A committee would do pass. Just go down the list. The committee has people from the 5th Ward, the 25th Ward, the 4th Ward, the 20th Ward, the 13th Ward, the 6th Ward, let's see where else, the 18th Ward, the 9th Ward, and the 3rd Ward. I think, you know, we did a good job, and I appreciate this committee. And again, I have to just get back. I know I get a lot of credit for this, but I will defer that credit to the vice chairman who made every meeting, even when I couldn't. At times that I'd be like, I have a temper if nobody hasn't noticed. At times when I would be like, okay, you know, I'm done with this, you know, because it was very frustrating. You know, I will also say that Sarah Baker, you know, in the mayor's office was instrumental in this. You know, I also was in a meeting in there when somebody picked up a cell phone and I'm like, you know, are we here to talk about this? And the mayor and me and the mayor don't always agree, but we don't always disagree. And I will give a shout out to the mayor on this for her willingness to work with me, to work with getting this together. And Vice Chairman Boyd, you had your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted before we close to say that I want to just give accolades and salute the mayor's office and yourself for the recommendations. It just seems like everything's coming together. I mean, we have people from all type of backgrounds, and I think it's very enriching in that they will learn from each other and that the city will be better off because of their service. So again, thank you to everybody who've applied and the mayor's office for doing their due diligence, as well as you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm just excited to, you know, be part of this experience. Thank you.
Well, God bless. Thank you. Does anyone on the committee, off the committee, have any comments? Any aldermen have any comments? Well, then I would like to thank everybody for hanging in there with us for a couple hours where you were first, last. This will go to the full board on the 25th. I honestly believe that this will go through without any incidents up there. And then I would assume the next step is the mayor's office or someone will contact everybody to let them know that and I think amongst yourselves, you're going to need to pick a chairman. I will make my suggestion, but no, this politically, it's none of my business anymore. It's gone to you guys. But I can say that with Pam Walker and Reverend Gray, that since they were in the original, they might have a little more knowledge, on some of the stuff. But that's going to be your pick. At this point, you won't hear much from us. We hope to hear from you. We're not going to be stepping in saying, oh, you're doing this and we disagree, because at this point, we've done our job. And I'm sure the mayor's office feels the same way, that they've done their job. We hope to hear from you. At the end of this, I went through both facilities, and I can tell you that if you go through CJC, some of the stuff over there basically had me down and depressed, and at the end of this, I don't see this as how do we get people out, although maybe that's what happens. But as long as we have people in our custody and they have nowhere they can be, I'd like to see them being treated like humans. For them to start breaking out of their cells and setting things on fire and acting up, they could have did that a long time ago. But it seems that things have just gotten to the point that they're that bad, and so at the end of this, my end goal in all of this was that this group to be as diverse and on opposite sides. I hope everybody learns from each other. And anyway, and thank you all. Having said that, if anybody wants to stay or go, we can make a motion to stay or go. Or
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, God bless you all later. Thank you.